Hello, friends, and welcome to Creative Risk, where we talk about art, entrepreneurialism, and everything in between. Before we dive into today's episode, know that you could have gotten it early if you were already a Patreon member. Early, you say? Yes, early. Patreon members have access to all Creative Risk episodes before everyone else. And not only that, they get a full bonus episode every month, plus weekly mini episodes from Labbadia or myself, where we will give you some sweet motivation as you head into the week. And yes, there is more. You'll have access to exclusive discounts on merchandise or with working one-on-one with either Labbadia or myself. You'll have early access to all the episodes that folks are getting publicly, but just days before, and so much more. You can join the community at www.patreon.com/Creative Risk Podcast. And make sure to follow us on TikTok and Instagram, and like and subscribe on YouTube.
So we're at my house now, so people are seeing that. Welcome to my abode. Welcome to
Labbadia's abode.
Stupid shit we put up on that board. Ibsen's Ghost.
We did that when we were recording the episode with Alexis.
Right, and as you can see, that has not changed, and that was like a month ago. All right, so welcome to Creative Risk, where we talk about art, entrepreneurialism, and everything in between. I'm Mike Labbadia.
And my name is Joshua Wayne Morgan.
Is your middle name really Wayne?
Middle name's Wayne. It's my dad's name.
Wayne.
I know.
Wayne's hard.
What do you mean?
It's hard. It's a hard name. Like, it's hard. Like, hard.
Oh.
Like Wayne. My name's Wayne.
Wayne Morgan. I actually think it's a good name.
Wayne Morgan is, yeah.
And my dad, who I look like the splitting image of. Truly. Splitting image. He... Like, it was a good name for him. I actually like the name Wayne Morgan. I never really associate with Wayne. What's yours? Isn't like James?
Joseph. We've been over this about 3,000 times. Wait.
One of the many
I
things
do realize that I am going to play this on the podcast. We need to... I want to show people this before we... This is incredible. Did you see the Francis Ford Coppola thing I posted on our Instagram?
No.
Oh, my God. Wait, go to... Are you... Fuck.
Is this really this is like
this is important. I'm going to actually play it in the yes.
I have no context for what this is, so I don't know what we're about to experience.
It's very important. That's all.
And related to the episode?
No, it's related to our work. It's related to our lives. It's related to living. How about that?
That's good. Then that sounds like it's worth playing.
Yes, it's definitely worth playing. But I can't find it, so don't worry about it. But basically, I'm going to say what he said in it. Okay. Somebody asked him because there's this movie Megalopolis that he's doing. Have you heard about this?
No.
So he has this movie Megalopolis, which is he's been developing it for 25 years. It's like his passion project. Okay. And I did just text it to you, but and I will play it on the podcast. And I think it's better if Francis just says it instead of me, because I think you're going to be really inspired by this and moved.
With where are you now with risking your own money on the film?
I don't care. I never cared about money. One of the reasons why I had the line of credit that I did to be able to do this is because in 2008, during the great you remember that financial crisis around 2008? I borrowed in those days $20 million to take a winery and build a winery that children could do something when their parents were drinking the wine. So I built a winery like Tivoli Garden in the great, wonderful Denmark with swimming pools and games, because I figured, well, if the kids could go, then the grandparents would go because they want to watch. And this absurd risk of $20 million created a place that now every winery tried to duplicate, in which people go and spend all day. And so I just took the money from that I wouldn't have had had I not taken the risk, and I put the risk in the movie. So I have no problems with the financial. Also, another thing, my children without exception, Sophia, Roman, and my granddaughter Gia, they have wonderful careers without a fortune. They don't need a fortune. So no matter what happens, aside from the great winery Inglenook, which we still own in the family, we're fine. It doesn't matter. You know, all of you, the money doesn't matter. What's important are friends, because a friend will never let you down. Money may evaporate.
And here's why that really registers for me. Well, this movie Megalopolis, that it's been broiled in controversy. They've been making it for like 5 years. And he funded a majority of the movie himself. It's like way over budget. It's got Adam Driver. It's like an all-star cast, but it's like, you know, and they can't get distribution. They're trying to get distribution at Cannes right now. Maybe they have it. I don't know. But it's everybody's like, oh my God, there's all this controversy. Like, is he going to like bankrupt himself? Is he going to like ruin his career? This is a 20-year passion project. And the reason why I love that thing he gave is, first off, he's a fucking entrepreneur. Like, everything he's talking about, like, I bought this winery and I took all the money I made from the winery and I used it to fund my own movie because he couldn't get anybody else to fund it. And the reason why, this is Francis Ford Coppola, arguably one of the greatest filmmakers of all time. And he's out there like having to like, you know, yeah, I invested for the past 20 years, I grew this thing so I could fund this movie. And it's just fascinating to me because it's like, this is the world we live in. This is the fucking world we live in. You know, it's not like we live in a world where it's like, oh, you know, maybe, but anybody who's going to be in the game that long, this dude's ancient. He's elderly. He's been in this game forever. Like, you need to always be making moves. And there's no guarantee that anybody's going to make your next movie. And just the reason why I think that's incredible is that's truly artist as entrepreneur. Like, you know, it's like, that is really, it just really hit me watching
No, I love that. It's not about the money.
Yeah.
Money. It's about the work you're making, what you're and the risks you're taking, and the people that you surround yourself with,
right?
The community that you have, and your why. I was just saying this to someone, you know who it was, because on the phone, I told you I was on the phone with, but who had a lot of struggles here,
right?
And you know, just the, not only the idea of it not being about money, but I think about Gary Vee is like this. Holding on to extreme optimism.
Right.
Extreme optimism
right.
in the face of a lot of difficulties. There will always be difficulties. Money will come and go. You know, there will be highs and lows, opportunity, then no opportunity. It's all going to be, but staying adventurous, curious, passionate, optimistic, you know, that's, and easier said than done.
And this is what's interesting is the whole film industry wants this movie to fail. It's like the biggest, like, you know, it's like the tabloids right now. Like, they want to see this movie bomb because of all the controversy, all the fucking behind the scenes drama, making it all this shit. And it's just like, he's like, dude, like, and it's just, yes, you have to remain incredibly optimistic because at the end of the day, it rests on your shoulders. It's just.
Well, yeah, there's as we always say, there's no cavalry coming. You are the cavalry.
Right.
That's interesting. No, I love that. But today's episode, ladies and germs,
right.
is not.
Josh, as you can tell, really did not like that we did that.
No, I don't. I actually, I'll tell you what I really wanted to do is then do a whole episode on that.
Yeah.
You know,
that's good.
But because it is really good.
It.
It is really good, and we'll save it. We'll return back to it. But today we're talking about another all-important topic.
Yes,
it really is a massive topic, and we're gonna an all-important topic, which is communication. Communication, folks. Communication in a macro sense, communication in a micro sense, communication in terms of managing expectations, communication in terms of building relationships, communication with yourself, being honest with yourself, the idea of communication, and more specifically that it has the power to solve most problems, which I really do believe. If we effectively communicate, I do think it can solve all problems. So we are positing that communication in a lot of ways is your ultimate solution. We'll break down why. Before we talk about communication, though.
Yes.
You know, we're going to talk about our reviews.
Okay, now we are going to read some of these reviews.
Well, yeah, just to set this up. So
yes.
so you know your reviews really do help us. They help any podcast, especially if you like it. If you don't like it, keep your mouth shut. No, they really do help us because, you know, Who are these guys? What are they talking about? Why do they know anything?
Why should I care?
So we appreciate your reviews, and we're going to start reading them. So you post a review, we're going to read it.
So that it should encourage you, and we'll say how many stars you left as well.
We'll read the good and the bad. So
We'll
if you
read
don't
everything.
like it, we'll read it. Here's one from last September.
Better late than never, pig.
From MTNRD 2016. I think I know who that is. Anyway, the title's Love It. 5-star review. Have long hoped for a podcast from these artist strategy guys. Like hanging out with my best friend and his second cousin, who also happens to be an actor. That's you. Funny and relevant. Well, I like that review.
That's good.
That's a
And we'll
good
work
review.
through some of these old ones as we do these episodes.
We
but yeah.
we agree with that review.
Thank you, Mountain Bear. whatever it
Did
was.
you leave the review?
Yeah, it was
No.
me. Yeah. Thanks, Mike. I mean, shit.
No. So
Thanks,
leave
Mom.
leave your review, and we'll happily read them and take in the wins and take in the losses. Actually, do you know who the
What's
one
your name?
I do watch a lot of CNN, and the person I
We're
like
aware.
on CNN, probably one of the people I like the most is Michael Smirkanish. He's very much a middle of the road. And what I like about his show is mid-show, live show, he has his producers put up tweets that people are tweeting at him, and you know that he likes to be antagonized. So usually the tweets are like, "You idiot! Like, you're all Trump or you're all Biden," but he's so middle of the road, so he can never win.
Right.
But I love it because he'll respond to them in real time. He's like, "Let's see what we got here," and they'll be like, "You idiot! You fascist pig! You think that Trump should be president?" He's like, "Literally did not say that, but thank you for weighing in," or he'll refute it. And I always
Sure.
like that.
Yeah.
He puts himself
That's-
in the line of fire.
That's like us. We
That's
are
like
like
us.
that.
We put ourselves in the line of fire for you creative geniuses.
Piglets.
Piglets.
I'm
Okay,
keep checking this now. Okay, we're good. Yep. Great.
Mike's checking because our technical issues continue.
Yeah, we did have a
It doesn't matter.
In the seamless edit, you didn't notice that we did have a technical issue, and Joshua was
Exactly.
literally crying.
It's so funny. I think, but you know what I do in chaos? Not that was chaos, but you know this about me. I actually neutralize. You know this about me.
Yes.
Mike can tell you we've been in meetings before. Like when I'm not happy, like with something, if I'm like really I sort of like zone out. I sort of
Yes,
like shut
that.
down.
Yeah, exactly. That's a very dark energy.
Actually, I do. Oh, I'm so glad you said that because I do need to do a bit of a. I need to go back on a statement that I made. This episode will come out for a few weeks from us recording this, but in one of our recent episodes, I talk about Kevin Spacey, and I talk about how I miss Kevin Spacey. But there's a reason why I'm saying this. I've been watching the Kevin Spacey Unmasked
Oh, how is
HBO
it?
series. It's good, and it's disappointing. And
It's disappointing because
because it
wait,
basically,
which way? Like disappointing in him, or is it like disappointing like that?
No, it's disappointing in him because and Kevin Spacey hit on me.
No, he's a fucking pig. I've heard a bunch of. Okay, there's a guy. I'll bleep out his name. Do you know?
No,
Okay, so this was a guy.
that sounds familiar though.
He was roommate.
You're gonna bleep out that name too, I hope.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And he's straight, allegedly. But he was telling a story to me about how like he went out, like he met Kevin Spacey somewhere, and Kevin Spacey took him on a date, and he didn't know it was a date, and he told me, and he told like a 2-hour story about the whole evening, and it sounded fucking sociopathic.
Well,
Like it sounded insane.
well, one consistency with all these men who've come forward to say that they've been assaulted or approached or whatever you want to say it by Kevin is that they say like he goes dead in the eyes, like when he makes his move, like something happens. Where,
I
like,
believe it.
And so when you said that, it was like I got like sociopath. So like basically, like first of all, when I have these moments, you've seen it, you know it. When I get upset or
Yes.
like something like I like.
Could you imagine
Go
Kevin
in.
Spacey like going to touch your dick, but like right before he does, he just goes dead in the eyes?
Although
like,
apparently that's exactly what it is. Like he something comes over him. So here's what I have to say.
that's awesome. Well, it's just awesome because it's just so like
like
dark,
awesome
like-
in every sense of the word, not like awesome great,
not like awesome great,
like,
just like that's like it's just like
I know.
that's just such a. It's like right before he gropes
Well,
you, he just goes dead in the eyes.
I've only seen 2 episodes. I don't know if there's gonna be more, but apparently apparently, no shocker here, his brother is in it, and his brother's like this eccentric. Apparently, like they're estranged. You get the sense they're estranged.
Well, if he's doing a hit piece
No.
on Kevin.
No, he's actually almost defending him because apparently Kevin's dad used to rape his brother, and I'm
Great.
wondering. And so of course, like, obviously victims often. Anyway, but here's why I want to make it about. It's about me. No, in an episode that's coming out, I sort of low key, I'm like, oh, I miss Kevin. I want him back. And that I actually emailed him about doing a project, and
since he didn't respond, now you are turning against him.
go dead in the eyes.
Yeah, exactly. now you go dead in the eyes, and you're like, I think Kevin's problematic.
He's a problematic. We should cancel him. No. I do. I feel. I take it back. I do, and I just want to say, like, serial abusers, he should not have a platform. And I watched his interview with Chris Cuomo on news because Chris Cuomo was kind of canceled.
Yeah,
and so
why is Chris Cuomo canceled?
Because of his brother.
But it was just because of his brother.
Yeah, but there was like misdoings, like where he was like almost like trying to like, I think like build like these are my words, by the way. Like basically help him with like a media strategy to like navigate.
Right.
And as a news anchor on Chicken Noodle News,
which is very subjective and objective. I know we cannot be
anyway.
Whatever.
So he was on
anti-Italian behavior,
and it just Kevin Spacey is so good at he's like, I've listened, I've learned, and I just want to get back to doing my work and showing people that I'm a man of character, all that. And the truth is like he should probably be done. He has probably lost. I know he was acquitted. I understand that. And we live in a world, specifically
where that doesn't matter anymore, but that's okay.
But the rule of law. But the truth is like this. I get it. I get it. So I apologize for my own misinformed sentiments. The HBO series, HBO company, also owned by CNN, has taught me.
Exactly. Wait, did you go to the Bernadette? What was the Bernadette concert you went to?
Careful the things you say, children will listen.
Well, where was this?
So I saw Bernadette Peters in concert last night, and
Where was it?
It was in Morristown, New Jersey.
Was this last minute tickets?
No, it was my birthday present from Michael.
Oh, that's very nice.
I love Bernadette Peters. I love her. She's 76. You should have. This bitch comes out in this gorgeous. I like it's get gayer as a second.
Yeah, exactly.
But like she comes in this
gagged, gooped,
gopped, and smooped. She comes out in this lavender gown, and her boobs. I mean, she looks amazing. Arms for days. She's tight. She's right. She's like us. She's coming on. I mean, I will say, to use a word from someone who was in my DMs about her today, the word they used to describe her voice was crispy. It's crispy. But let me be clear. For Bernadette's never been like known for her like vocals in particular. There was a few rough moments, but that's okay, because like what's interesting is like I don't even think of Bernadette as like this like actrice first, but there was a few songs she did, her songs from Follies. The sun comes up, I think about him, where like she's so emotional she literally can't sing the song. But it's like kind of weird and amazing.
Well, the thing I do, I'm not the biggest musical theater person, but I do notice this. It's like all musical theater people sound exactly the same now.
Not Bernadette.
Well, no, I mean like the new generation, they're all like amazing. Like,
hey, I'm here and I'm
but they all sound exactly the same. They all sound like amazing, but it's just like,
no, I know.
There's no character.
Okay,
there's not a lot of character.
I'm so glad you said it, because if you listen to Dorothy Loudon, who was the original Miss Hannigan in Annie,
yes,
she did a Billy Goldenberg musical called Ballroom, and there's a great song in that called 50%. I won't iron his shirts, but here's the thing: she's not a good singer. I mean, it's rough.
Yeah.
B. Arthur, Dorothy Loudon. Think about Rex Harrison. Even like some of the great singers, Anthony Warlow. These voices, Joel Grey. It's not like Joel Grey's an amazing singer. These are performers, actors. I know exactly what you mean. It's like even musical theater's become a bit neutered.
Yeah, it's like Well, that's the thing, is we live in such a it's like there's no sex in it, you know what I mean?
It's
like there's no sex because it's also like when something is so poppy and so like automaton, like just
Yes.
like perfect pop set. There's like it actually doesn't like get your like
I know. Okay, so like let me be clear. Like there were moments last night where I was like, "Oh, girl, you got it, But it's like actually like kind of
that.
interesting. You know what my favorite song she did last night? She did a new song. She's like, I'm doing this for the first time. Who knows if that's true or not? She did Fever.
I'm just imagining it's just like never mind.
No, it was.
It's
But
just
I
like,
know, also to tell you
it's
one
just
of
a
those.
MAGA song. She's like, I'm premiering with this for the first time. She's like, there were good people on both sides.
Except it was like there we go,
People on both sides break up the encampments. It's like club the children, club their brains.
Marjorie Taylor Greene is my queen.
Exactly.
No, but
Students.
but also this is random too. And then we really got to get to the episode. This always
I know.
happens. But there was an old man in front of me. It was just so funny. First of all, it was like me and Michael and like, octogenarians. I mean, it was like
I'm sure
literally.
I'm an old gays. I'm sure there's a ton of
But
old
what
gays.
cracked me up was like there was this older gay man in front of us, probably like in his 70s, who was showing his friend some pictures.
Survived AIDS.
Well, he did actually. That's what he was talking about. He was talking about how he used to be straight, and then he was like, "Well, I lived through the AIDS crisis, and all my friends were dying, and so I think he decided to become straight. I don't. Who knows?
Wait, who was he saying that to?
This woman. This is what I'm telling you. He was showing this woman some pictures of dogs on his phone. But here's what cracked me up. I'm sitting right behind him, and he's scrolling through to find pictures of the dogs, and every other picture is a big dick. Or some man's asshole, and but what cracks me up is,
And he's not like hiding.
no,
he's just like
he's like, oh, and look at my corgi here, and he like click, and right next to it is like a
that's
big black
that's
penis.
fucking hilarious.
And the woman wasn't saying anything, but it's just he's just older.
That
so
is
didn't understand.
Well, older people do that all the time. There was some guy when I was on set doing this movie. Like I was nervous, and I felt like I was like, dude, because he was showing me his comic book collection. He was like a 50-year-old like dad who like. He's a good, really good actor. He's showing me, and he was just scrolling through he had all of his pictures. He's just scrolling. I was like, dude, be careful.
I know.
All my pictures, half of them are just like zoomed in screenshots of like people on Instagram, like their tits. Like,
That feels like an old man thing to do too, though. For
it
some reason.
is
like
that's
screenshot
the screenshots is like people's tits, like the other.
But that's
Instagram
basically what it just was cracking me up. So it was me and him at Bernadette last night.
That's funny.
That's
gonna be you when you grow up. You know that.
When I grow up in 5 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Next month.
All right. Communication.
So we're talking about communication today because and it being the ultimate potential solution.
Yes.
If you see Papa Labbadia get up many times, again, it's just his own autism.
Well, it's because I'll get screamed at if it. You're supposed to. Yeah, exactly. I'll get horse whipped. Here we go.
So Labbadia, you found a definition that I think, and we know what communication is, but I actually think this is good. I think you were right to want to include this because there's a lot of elements of this that will help us break down the elements of good communication and how it relates to us as artists. Why don't you read it for us?
Yes. And I have to read it off of this because I can't. Now your camera's blocking the thing.
Okay.
So what is good communication? Good communication involves
Stroke.
Good communication involves conveying information clearly, effectively, and empathetically. I'm butchering this.
Okay, here we go. Let me read it. Good communication involves conveying information clearly, effectively, and empathetically, ensuring mutual understanding and respect between parties involved.
And then, so the reason why I think that's an interesting, and why we have to define it is because as we talk about communication being a solve, if you will, for things, communication. As we talk about communication being a solve for all things, it may be like, how is that communication? And that's why I think it's important to establish the ground rules. Right. And what's important to me is like this idea of obviously conveying information clearly, effectively, and empathetically, ensuring mutual understanding and respect between parties involved. And so obviously we think about that in terms of other people. So it's very clear that, whether it's somebody right in front of you, whether it's like you're sending an email, whether it's on social media, whether it's whatever, like it's very clear. But one thing that I don't think we often consider is how we communicate to ourselves.
Absolutely.
Are we communicating to ourselves in a way that, ensures mutual understanding And here's what I mean by that. And this kind of goes to the authenticity episode in some ways, like between our sort of like our default, like sort of like primitive selves going through life and like what our higher values are. Are those two things in talking to each other?
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
So, but let's break down each one of these adjectives used. So clearly.
Yeah, so good communication involves conveying information clearly. So this might be kind of obvious, but I do think that I would argue, and also just want to say, in today's day and age, I think communication is just an issue in general. I actually think I have a big issue with communication. I really do. And Farrell was saying to me that she thinks that I maybe over worry about that more than others, but I definitely have a struggle with communication, and I know other people struggle with communication. But clearly, essentially, what we have here as examples of this are not beating around the bush. So being direct. There's someone, a bigger actor friend of ours, who was going to be who he invited to be on the podcast, and he wrote us an email that was really clear, and it basically was like, and it came late. I mean, whatever, that's relative. And subjective, but it had been a few months, and he was like, "Hey, sorry, it's been a wild time, and the truth is like I don't have the bandwidth to be on this right now, but love you." And basically, it was like very direct, very clear, not able to do this.
And what I appreciate about it is it's scary to can be like that blunt.
I know.
Because there's part of you, like, as the person receiving that, like, even though you're like appreciative of like, okay, great, like, we got a clear answer, there's still something in you that's a little like, ooh, like, you know, a little tinge. There's a little tinge of hurt when somebody's that,
of course,
blunt about it.
Well, you know what I love about not beating around the bush? I won't say what show it was, but you remember that, I'm going to relate it back to why it's so appreciated. Remember that tour that I was up for?
Yes.
And I went in many, many times.
Yes.
And
The Wiz.
and now I'm replacing Wayne Brady. Did you see he's leaving?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
That'd be hysterical.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, because you look black, allegedly. You look so black, and everybody confuses you. Anyway, so
ain't nobody bring me no bad news, okay? I don't even know if that's his song. I don't really know the show that well. But anyway, I was up for this tour, and I went in many times. And when they finally started in the final rounds of callbacks, or following the final rounds of callbacks, they slowly started to let people go, right? And you know this, 'cause I was telling you, like, but it was weeks, y'all. Weeks. First, we didn't hear anything for a long time, and then all of us who were in finals for these principals, you know, we're texting and trying to figure out news, and we would say, "Oh, I got let go," and I wasn't hearing anything.
you still haven't gotten to. You still technically didn't get like a let go email.
Well, exactly. So
Yeah.
part of what happened was, I'll never forget, was when casting, because I was pushing my reps, like, I want to know, because you know how badly I wanted that, and I don't remember the exact wording. But what eventually came from casting, and the reason, and it relates to this idea of don't beat around the bush, was we think at this time it's probably a no. It was something like that. But the team might circle back at some point. One of these. Dance around the bush. You know, okay, so what do we say? It's a no, right? And I remember I said to Rashad, I was like, we're done. It's done. We're done. Because I couldn't hold on to that anymore. I would rather, it's no, not going in his direction. And if it were going in my direction, would have got an offer. I'd rather have a not going in his direction and then it get reversed,
right,
than this gray area of maybe could, who knows, one day, la 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 la. So I'm saying that because we know what it's like to be kept on the line for something.
I know.
I mean, Mike, you don't do it as much anymore, but there was a few years ago, I'll never forget, every time you'd have an audition or a callback for something, you'd be like, so when do you think I'm going to find out? You think, so it's Tuesday now, Tuesday at 12. So you think I'll know by tomorrow at 11? Maybe by Thursday. No, but I get it. We obsess.
Well, the thing about the
myself too,
communicating
not just you. I'm just
clearly. No. The thing about the communicating clearly, I think, is interesting. Is it's hard because you want to, you know, this is such a business of games. It's such a business of games. We always want to play, and so there's a combination of playing a game, keeping your options open, like, hey, maybe we could potentially find like a collaboration here. Or, I don't know. Let's see where this goes.
Exactly.
And it's like, and that's sort of the game we play, and it's exhausting. It's exhausting because so many things are sort of like in the ether, as opposed to like, there's not a lot of this is happening, we are getting this done, this is what it is. There's not a lot of that because
I think we're afraid of, and this is why
pushing people away.
Well, that, but also it's the same reason why actors are like, I'm an improviser, singer, catwalker, filmmaker, director, actor, editor, singer. It's like we don't want any door to close.
You know,
as
it's
opposed to
making me,
being like, I don't do that.
Well, it's making me think. There's this director who I really want to work with, and I want to produce something really badly with him. But I've been a little
Francis
loose
Ford
about
Coppola?
it. Yeah, me and Francis, Kevin Spacey. I play his dad. I'm doing the Kevin Spacey biopic. Kevin's playing himself, and I'm playing his dad.
It's called Dead Behind the Eyes.
Yeah. Dead behind the eye. Yeah, you were dead in the eyes. Dead in the eyes, son.
Not the hip thrusts. Horrible. Horrible.
That's funny. So, well, fuck.
You want to work with a director?
Yeah. So you know, part of me, and I have this idea. All right. So I have a clear idea about what I want to do. And what's my impulse? My impulse is okay. Like, let me kind of keep it. But I'm close enough with this person. I'm pretty close with this person. I wouldn't say we're like best friends, but like we're solid. And so, but like I should just go up to him and say, hey, I want to do this. I want you to do this.
100%.
Are you interested? Yes or no?
100%.
As opposed to trying to kind of keep it loose and like play it cool. It's like, it's easier to just.
Well, you know what this is making me think about too. Sorry, we're only on the first one of these adjectives.
I know.
But just to say, speaking of directors, you know the project I'm talking about as well. And if not, I can say it and you'll bleep it. But the guy that I've been working with, who I really don't want to work on that play with, that I'm sort of dreading.
Yes.
I know I don't want to work with him. I know it. I know I don't want to do it.
Right.
But I can't, and you know what? And I just need to say, I do not want to move forward with this project at this time. Or even more specifically, because this is the truth, because I actually do want to move forward with it. I do not want to move forward with you with this project. And it's painful.
Well, you know, there's a way to do it, and that's the thing. Hormozy talks about this, and there's a way to do it where you can lie a little bit. Like, we don't have to be so upfront.
Sure.
Like, you can be like, you know, there's always a chance that you could be like, you know, hey, you know, give imaginary goalposts. So the next 6 months are completely swamped.
Right, I know what you're talking about. That episode that says that.
Or like, this project is currently taking up a lot of my time. It's just like when you compliment somebody's performance and you don't like it, you don't lose anything by slightly bending the truth a little bit.
I don't disagree with that, but I do just want to be clear that the point is to be clear, and to not leave open threads.
9 months wondering who you'd be.
Well, friends,
Turns out I
that
always knew.
is truly one of my favorite voices, the one that you just heard. The wonderful Jessica Fontana recently released her first album, Everyday Special. The album bridges the worlds of theater and pop and also includes an original song, part of which that you just heard, penned by Jessica with her husband Santino Fontana and Frank Galgano and Matt Castle, both of whom are also wonderful artists. The track inspired the album's title, of course. I've listened several times, no BS, to the whole album, and so should you. It's available on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, and of course the rest of the regulars. So go download Everyday Special by Jessica Fontana today. It'll make every day a little more special. But it's great. Guess what? Your boys are doing their first play together. It's crazy, right? We'll see how this goes. Anywho, Labbadia and myself will be appearing in Centennial casting at Penguin Rep Theater in Stony Point, New York from June 14th through July 7th. Love, laughter, and mistaken identity take the stage when Vincent DiDonato and his co-workers discover a pile of headshots sent in by actors who have mistaken their metal casting shop for a theatrical casting agency. A hilarious romantic escapade turns up the heat as sparks sometimes fly in the most unexpected places. You can get tickets at penguinrep.org. That'd be good. I'd be good at that. Anyway, oh, and by the way, I only got the job because Mike put my name forward when they lost somebody last minute. So it's all about who you know, even if it's someone like Labbadia. So along with not being on the bush, being clear, the other thing I want to say, it kind of relates to this, is not, and you and I have been talking about this, not over-promising.
Yes.
So when we're being clear in communication about something that we want to do or something that we're trying to do or that we are going to do if we're making a promise, not to overpromise. So to be clear, and part of that's a conversation with yourself, but I think you and I both have the impulse. We are both optimistic, hungry people. And I say it because I do think that there's a tendency to be like, oh, you know what I'll do by next Tuesday? I'll read all 5 of your plays.
Right.
And I'll have all... No.
Right.
So communication for me is also inclusive of not over promising.
Right. 100%.
The next piece is effectively.
Yes,
right?
effectively.
So we said good communication involves conveying information clearly, effectively. So here's how I want to kick this idea off.
Yes.
And you know that for me, in a lot of ways, this idea was actually in many ways what this episode was about. Not really, but that we live in a moment when there are so many modes. We live in a moment when there are so many modes of communication.
Yes.
I would argue too many.
Yes.
Phone,
They need to stay on top
text
of.
message,
Sure.
calls, email addresses, Instagram, Facebook, all of it. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because, I don't know about you, but I find myself getting pulled in every which direction. I'll put up, I can consider, like, you post something on social media, it gets 36 comments.
As if anything we've ever posted has
but
ever gotten 36 comments.
No, but like I'll post, like when I post, like, okay, when I post shit, it usually gets around 36, 30, I'll think about 30 comments. I mean, not always, I'm making that up, but like,
That's impressive. Yeah.
but whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a popular post gets a bunch of comments.
Yes, sure.
And why is that a form of communication? Because you could say, well, communicating with your community, your fans, whatever the fuck.
Text is always hard too. Text is because like what always happens is I'll have like a minute, I'll have like 30 seconds where I'm looking at the phone, and then I'll start responding to a text, and then but somebody's right there, and then they're next thing you know you're in a conversation, but
Exactly.
that normally goes as long for me as about I can normally like 1 minute. I can text for normally about like maybe the longest I could be in a text conversation with somebody is like 3 minutes.
Well,
And then I just what do you say? Do you say okay? Like in the middle of a conversation, you're like okay, bye. Like what do you say in the middle of a text conversation that's like okay, like oh haha bye, or like how do you? But you know what I mean? You know those situations.
I
you get
really
stuck
do.
in that and you're like
this
Yeah.
is you know that text message is a very
So
ineffective
hard.
communication tool for me because this is what I dread. I am not I say this to I want to talk solution actually because part of it for me is about communicating how you effectively communicate with people.
Sure.
And I will tell people I would rather you not text because I am not if I spent my entire day responding to every text message I got, I would get nothing done. I would get constantly distracted if I was like, oh, let me go. I don't like text message conversations. I do not like immediate forms of communication.
And even like, it's like emails. I mean, it's all hard, but like, email, at least like what I really liked about getting things done is he talks about like the biggest thing that I try to stop doing, which always helps when I'm really doing it, is not using my inbox as a staging place to stage conversations. So what does he mean by that? If I read an email and I'm like, oh, I don't want to respond to that right now, don't leave it in the inbox. Don't leave it in the inbox.
Snooze
move
it.
Well,
I
snooze it
snooze a lot.
or move it to a action folder.
To come back to.
And so I know that, okay, I am in a mode now where I can respond. So there's action that I need to take. So now let me go to this folder that I have designated as my action folder, and let me just work through all these emails. Whereas if it's all mixed up, right? If I use my inbox as like it's a mixture of I need to respond, but also I'm waiting on a response, but also it's just like stuff I haven't read yet. Like those are 3 different fucking things that need different levels of attention. And so it's like, it's hard. And it's the same thing with DMs. It's the same thing with fucking, it's hard to stay on top of it all.
And that's the one, a lack of effective communication for me is at the root of, in my opinion, a lot of problems.
Well, you know what's making me think of? Setting aside some guy texted me, who's somebody I know, and he texted me,
this is the artistic director?
No, this is somebody who texted me something really, he's sober. He's a certain number of days sober, and I wanted to, I just quickly said, "Congrats, dude," and then he started texting me, and then I was like, "Oh, you were coming over," and it's like, what I should have done is I should have 15 minutes or 20 minutes designated in my day where I take care of responses. And I could have crafted. How much more meaningful would it have been for me to just craft a really well-meaning text back? Like a couple sentences, write a paragraph to this guy and really take the time to actually craft it, as opposed to part
of what you're bringing up too is I think everybody has different expectations,
right,
about what effective communication is,
right?
Because for some folks, there's if you don't respond in a matter of moments, or certainly let's say 24 hours, which but just so you know, I remember artist strategy. I remember I used to really talk about try to get back within 24 hours in any mode of communication, but the world has changed. And so part of what I also thought you were going to say, which I also do think is I'm really trying to get better at, is communicating not only how I communicate effectively, i.e., calls and texts are not great for me.
Yes,
but I will email is. But it's in my email. I think it might still be in yours, but because you had it at some point too. In my email, my signature says, "Please do not expect it might take me up to 72 hours to get back to you." And even then, there's so many things that I've not been able to get back to, but I try to manage people's expectations of me. And you know what's funny, though? I find this. People take that personally.
Yeah.
Like they have a problem with that.
Right.
But in this instant moment we live in, and by instant, everybody, it's all now. Like you're saying, people know that we have our phones on us. The truth is, what sucks about this moment is people have seen your shit. And we've seen other people. That's the truth. Even if it's it's been a crazy week, the truth is that I probably saw
that you
it.
did see it and you chose not to respond to it.
And so then people feel like it's a lack of prioritizing, which the truth is
it is.
Well,
because
you never know what's going on in people's lives.
But what's interesting, exactly. But here's the thing too, right? The thing is quality over quantity is sort of what I'm realizing. If somebody were to text me, "Hey, how are you?" as opposed to ignoring the text for whatever, how long, months, right? Or be like, "I'm great, how are you?" What if I just, I know that that's a text message because I'll leave it, I'll not open it and read it yet. But I know that that's a text that I'm actually going to craft a full response to.
Sure.
As opposed to, because the problem with this is it is not effective.
Right.
Fastness is not effective because most of the time you're not able to actually take stock and consider and think about what you want to say.
That's why I like email.
I know. I might put it in my email signature. Look, I take 72 hours because I want to craft it may be that I want to craft the most well-intentioned, effective email I can to you.
Well, this
So
is
it
making
might-
me want to even amend that note that says like, and it might take me longer, and if so, it's because I'm dealing with other priorities, and it doesn't. I mean, really,
Yeah.
because it goes back to the point of being clear. It's not a personal reflection, but actually, I will say much of this is true for you. Sometimes it takes me longer to get back to more meaningful.
Yes, of
people,
course.
because I want to take the time to respond. But there's a lot, as for many, many people, there's a lot of shit in our lives.
And do
a
you
lot of
say,
responsibilities.
hey, I see this, and it may take me some time, but I do want to craft I want to consider this and craft something that's actually, whatever. Empathetically is the next thing.
Good
here.
communication involves conveying information clearly, effectively, and empathetically. Okay, this one I really love. This was actually the one that made me really want to include this definition.
Yes, you love it.
Well, because
You love empathetically.
I think when we're talking about good communication, you cracked up in the last episode we released where you're like literally propped up against a pillow. It's okay. Live your life. Relax, girl. Get cozy. Just do your thing. Just relax. Anyway, empathetically, what I just love about this is if you are considering other people as you're communicating, I don't care what it is. And I don't have a specific rep example, but I said I wanted to use reps as an example. If you are considering folks on the other end, I do believe that effective, you will more effectively communicate. And I'm going to use a personal random example. I'm not going to say a name, but there's someone in my life, I think you know who they are. Just another actor or another person who every time they reach out, they want something. It's about getting like what can I or they only reach out when they need like a career related thing. And look, let me just tell you something for all you listening out there. Here's the truth. Per this podcast, per the work that not you shoveling it in. It's like one bite's one thing, Oh well, he's shoveling the yogurt in, y'all. So it's just my vantage point. In terms of when people reach out to me and say, "Hey, I have a few quick rep questions. I have a few questions about getting in the room for." Do you really think? I'm so sorry. Do you really think I want to talk to you about that? I mean, I'm serious.
I know.
And here's why it's starting to really bother me.
I know.
This is my life. Meaning, we run a whole fucking podcast
And a whole business. I mean,
a whole business where people pay us, and I'm being serious about this. And it's because people want us to be friends. They want it to be chill. And they don't want it. That's just the nature of what we do.
Sure.
But I promise you, it's like asking a doctor to look at the mole on your back at a party. Not interested. You can make an appointment with Susie, my secretary, and then you can come in and I'll look at the mole on your back. And I really don't mean to be rude, but I have to say this because this relates to empathetically. Put yourself in another person's shoes when you're trying to communicate in general. And I want to use reps as an example.
Yeah.
We all have to hold ourselves back with this. I think about poor Rashad sometimes, because Rashad, I really use no filter in my life. Like I'm pretty honest with him, which I value in my manager, but not my agent. I value my agents, but I know if I submit an audition or that tour that we're talking about, don't send 9 emails. Why? Because put yourself in their shoes.
Right.
Here's the deal. They're gonna let you know if they get some information.
Of course.
So by hounding my reps with the same question, all I am doing is not taking into account that this actually makes me feel like they might feel like I don't trust them. It might make them feel pretty annoyed. It might make them feel like, again, empathetically consider how you are communicating. It will go a long way.
Well, it also just makes you go like, I'm gonna say that actually the thing about, I'll wait on that. But the other thing that allows you to do, 100% agreed. It also allows for you to be flexible in your own thinking.
Sure.
By way of understanding where other folks might be coming from. So,
Sure.
a good example of this, and this is kind of in the other thing, but like, that casting person ghosted me, or, or this happened, or they're not responding to my. Well, when you get into their shoes and you see where they're coming from, I guarantee you, that you're going to see things from their perspective and go, oh, well, what have I done for them lately? Why would they take the time to talk to me?
Right.
What have I ever done for them? What value have I brought to their lives?
That's a great example.
So, when you are actually able to step in somebody else's shoes, you get more perspective, and subsequently you're able to improve.
Absolutely.
The other thing is, and that's by the way, that's what capitalism is. At least capitalism in the best form is that, you have to think about what the market needs and how are you adding value to the market. And so by you being able to go, hey, this person has not responded to me. This person is not as communicative as I would like. Well, what would make them communicative? What would make them respond? Well, if I, what would, it's funny. Even this, I want to talk to somebody about a project and they won't get back to me and, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, what would make them? What would make them get back to you?
Well, I told you this. I don't mind saying it because if he ever listens, or I would tell him this to his face. But I told you when I left a gig a few months ago, and I hadn't paid Rashad his full commission, and I was texting him with something. And I love her. I love Rashad. I really do, because he's just no bullshit, right? And he wasn't getting back to me about something. I would ask him a question. He thumbs up a text.
You're like, yeah, he's a little distant, and you're very close with him.
Very close, yeah, and he was he would have been honest. He would have been direct at some point, but he also gives me room. And I wasn't purposeful. I wasn't trying not to pay him. I just slipped my mind, right?
Yeah.
But I realized, and I'm saying this to your point because I was like, you really have to communicate with yourself. Well, what's going on? The second I sent that Venmo, 2 seconds, thank you, and then responses. To other texts.
I love it.
I low-key do as well. And that's why if he was here, he'd be like, bitch, don't fuck with my money. That's what he'd say. He would literally say that.
Yeah.
Because it's not personal, it's business.
Exactly.
And he can still be my friend or friendly, whatever, and it not be a weird thing. So I just think that's such a good point. If someone's not communicating with you, if you're feeling like there's and I'm thinking about that person I'm telling you about there's one person in particular who always reaches out to me.
Is it who are you talking about?
No, it's
LOL.
It's just random person. But what if you didn't reach out to me just when you needed something? Maybe that's why I don't want to communicate with you, because you send me some bullshit boo-hoo that I listen to every day of the week. No offense to everybody. We all have the bullshit boo-hoo, because we all do. We do. I do. You do. But I don't want to hear more bullshit boo-hoo on my off time from hearing bullshit boo-hoo. I like that.
Yeah, and it's like and it's all about like, it's not, and that's the thing. It's not personal. It's right. It's like, but we live in such a so that, which leads to the next thing. Ensure, all of this is to ensure mutual understanding and respect.
Good communication involves conveying information clearly, effectively, and empathetically, ensuring mutual understanding and respect between parties.
And so, the respect thing comes by not leading people on, by letting them know where they stand, but also seeing their perspective, seeing their point of view, understanding what they might need. To me it's hard because somebody just sent me a script who we both know. And it's like,
Francis Ford Coppola.
Francis. But it's like an example of like, hey, just so you know, I'm a little busy at the moment. I may not get to this. I really want to read it. May not get to it for a little while. However, just know that it is. And you know what? If I communicated that way to that person, that would actually make me more likely to read it than to be like, great.
Wait. You're saying someone sent you the script and you're saying you didn't respond yet?
I know. They're like, hey, can I send you a script? Yeah, great. Send it to me. But I didn't communicate any sort of parameters about when I might read it, and like just to be like, just so you know, I'm really excited to read this, but it may take me a couple of months to get to it. At the moment, just things are a little crazy right now with X, Y, and Z. And I bet you if I took the time to actually craft those expectations to that person, and to step into their shoes, because I bet you that person is waiting for me to read it. And it's like to actually step into their shoes and to just take the moment. I bet you that I'd probably be about 40 times more likely to actually read that script because I took a moment, as opposed to being like, yeah, great, yeah, sure, yeah, blah, blah, blah.
Well, how about the thread we're on right now? You, me, and all those other boys I'm talking about.
I know.
With that person who sent us a script that we said we were interested in.
God, I know.
And no one has responded.
I know.
I mean, I have to because this person's very dear, and I want to, and this is a project.
This is yes, 100%.
If there's no communication, and to your point, it's the reason why it matters in ensuring mutual understanding and respect is that it's actually saying, "Oh, I don't respect you."
Well, and this is the thing too, is we said this in another episode about, I think it was the collaborators episode, but it's hard to say what good communication looks like, but I know what bad communication feels. Sometimes it's easier to identify what the bad version is than what the good version is, and then not to do the bad version. Bad communication is avoidance.
Yes.
Bad communication is avoidance. When you're avoiding, when that casting person is avoiding giving you a straight answer, when you avoid responding to an email, when you avoid bad communication, looks like you're avoiding something.
And it's so funny you said about that casting person, because you know how much I love that casting office.
Yes.
I will tell you that definitely, like in that moment, I was like, oh, okay. You don't respect me the way I thought you respected me to, and I will always go back in because I really do love The Office, but I did feel disrespected, and I will not forget that and I did feel mistreated and taken advantage of, given how hard I worked, and I know my reps were reaching out asking for clarification, and I'm saying it because to your point about this, it builds mistrust. And I'm thinking again about your point about even clarifying. Yes, oh, thanks, I'll definitely read it. If you set clear boundaries, that's why it's kind of sexy when people say that person we were talking about, no, I can't be on your podcast right now. Great. When you know where things stand, it makes you feel understood and respected in a way.
It's true.
And listen, I struggle with this too.
Even if it's a no.
Maybe especially if it's a no. Because I feel more respected because this person took the time to say, he literally said, love you, can't do this right now.
And you know what?
And by the way, didn't say, let's touch base again.
No, just said I can't do this. Right now, he said, but he said I can't do this right now.
I mean, it wasn't like, maybe I'm just saying
Yep.
Was a real clear, okay, great. So we might circle back to him, but it'll probably be 6 months, 9 months.
Yes, at least.
You know what I mean?
And we should do a whole episode on the power of no. It's and saying no, and blah 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 blah. Okay, so but we're talking about, that was honestly a good amount of stuff, but we're also going to talk about what problems can communication solve, right? So.
If this is the ultimate solution.
Yeah, right. If communication is the ultimate solution, if we're saying communication can solve many of your problems, how so? Let's work through some of these. I
love this one.
Yeah, this is a good one. You say it.
Well, this is okay. So communication is not just with other people. Communication is also very much with yourself. And another way to consider it is managing expectations.
Right.
And one of the things that we actually have this on our questionnaire when people want to work with us, one of the questions we say is essentially, how did you think your career was going to go up to this point, and did it meet your expectations?
Right.
And so this question of how did you think your career was going to go, and even if you ask yourself this question now, how do I really think this is going to go over the next 20 years? How do I think my career is going to take shape? And here's why it matters. Because a lot of times people don't have tangibles, i.e. a clear sense of direction or vision. But not only that, I would argue a lot of times we're bullshitting ourselves.
Right.
Well, what I think, we just released a few episodes now ago, we released a showcase episode.
Right.
Well, what do most of these kids think this is going to happen?
Right.
I'm going to graduate. I'm going to go to showcase. I'm going to get an agent. I'm going to get a few off-Broadway plays. Then I'll be on Broadway. Then I'll get a TV show. Then I'll get a recurring. Then I'll be a movie star. And I'll be
right.
So managing your own expectations of how you actually think your career is going to come together.
And it's how you communicate to yourself, and that's what the reason why it's communication is because it communicate to yourself in a way that's effective, that's empathetic, right? So effectively be like, okay, well, what is my, that's clear. So when you say, well, it's just going to happen. Okay, well, there's always so much value in look, you need to have blind delusion. You need to have some blind delusion. I'm not going to sit here and say
Sure.
like, you know, that's
Entrepreneurialism is.
great to have as an artist and as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, of course.
But, you know, to go, well, how? Well, how is that going to happen? Well, you know, I'll get it. Well, eventually I'll book something. Well, how? How is that going to happen?
well,
You
that's
know,
the question that then it forces you to
how-
ask
you know,
next. Exactly.
that's, you know, to me, that is, you know, showing respect to yourself, not babying yourself, not being da-da-da. But when you really sort of get into the nitty-gritty of how, well, you know I'm broke right now, but eventually, you know, I'll have money. Well, how? How are you eventually going to have
Right.
money?
right.
Well, I know eventually I'll get out of this situation. Well, how are you eventually going to get out of the situation?
It's not always comfortable.
You know,
ask
I'm
that
in this
question.
survival job. I hate this survival job, but I know it's temporary. Well, is it? How is it temporary? Like, in what way?
What makes it temporary?
What makes it? And again, empathetically doing it. But, you know, I think that managing your own expectations, obviously for yourself, but obviously for other people. Sometimes other people expect too much of you, and we don't want to be small in other people's eyes. We don't want to be like, you know, the fear of managing expectations of others. When you talk about overpromising, that's a big one for me, because you don't want to let people down. But when you say like, hey, I may not be able
Right.
to I may not be able to like, you know,
Wow.
it's, if you have a, you know, I think about my reps when that I let go of a while ago. And like, you know, they were sending me, I got into final callbacks for this big musical. But I don't feel comfortable doing musical theater. I don't feel comfortable. This was a very character-y part, whatever. And they were like, oh, you need to blah, blah, blah. And it's like, didn't really want to, I have no desire to do that. Nor
The
would,
Sound of Music.
it was Sound of Music. No, it was The Wiz. And I didn't really want to put in the work to do that. That's not where I saw myself. But as opposed to being like, hey, this isn't really what I'm about, just so you know, like I instead of managing their expectations, I didn't want to let anybody down.
Exactly.
So that's a big one. So another big problem, you know, that at least we tell ourselves is that, you know, this is a very crowded and competitive market. And many of us don't know where we fit into it, right? So those are like a two-pronged problem here. How does communication help with that? Well, you know, I'm teaching this Shakespeare class, and, you know, we're doing, you know, part of it is like, okay, what's your point of view? Because I think that what's severely lacking in all Shakespearean acting is point of view. I feel like we're so weighed down by dogma and like, oh, this is what the play is and this is what Shakespeare wanted, that there's nothing unique being brought to the table. And so one of the things I ask people is like, okay, well, what are your values in art? In art in general, you know, what is severely lacking in your creative sphere? And you know, because yes, for you to be here wanting, in my opinion, take it or leave it, if you want to have a place in this business when it's incredibly oversaturated and you don't know where you fit, the first thing you have to ask is, well, why the fuck am I needed? What is missing? Why am I needed? What is severely lacking that I can potentially bring to the table? Again, this is about This is more about communicating to yourself, but you know, ask yourself the question of, well, as opposed to saying like, I don't see how I fit in, you know, approach it again from an empathetic place of, well, something must be missing. Something. How can I be of service? How can I be of service to
How
the
could I?
business?
How can I provide value?
Exactly.
As opposed to, but my auntie loved me so much. I'm so good.
Right.
Don't you just see it? Well,
Right.
clearly not.
Exactly.
I mean, really, clearly not.
And it's amazing how most people, you
Don't
know,
want to even ask.
well,
that
don't
question.
even want to ask the question of like,
Right.
well, we want to say a lot of things that are wrong about the business, but we don't want to talk about how, okay, well, how can our artistry and our
responsibility?
business, great, that's opportunity. When something is missing in a market, guess what? That's fucking, it's so crazy how like we take that. I just actually realized that how we take that to be a negative. It's like, oh, the business doesn't have this or this is wrong. Those are wonderful things. If you're seeing market gaps, if you're seeing things that are missing in the business,
Yes.
if the business was perfect, we wouldn't need you. We would not need you at all.
Well, I like your point about point of view because, I think you and I are always on the same page about the fact that I ultimately think that that's what we're selling as artists is our point of view. Like that's why people bring us in. But if you and I'm, my brain was getting clogged. So I was thinking about Cole Escola. I love Cole, and I really want Cole to come on the podcast because I think what Cole's doing with O'Mary is just amazing. Going to Broadway soon. Cole has such a unique point of view,
right?
Obviously, and I think partly what makes it hard for people to ask themselves that question, to communicate empathetically and effectively and clearly with themselves, is because the truth is, especially for little old actors, we just like doing it because I did my production of Guys and Dolls when I was in middle school, which I did. I was Sky Masterson, and people love you, great, amazing, and so
I felt amazing doing it.
I loved that, and people keep telling me I'm good, and I go to school and I do good work. Okay, but that ain't enough. I might be a really great sewer. I might sew really well, and I can put color patterns together. But does that a designer make? I don't know. I have to do I have a unique point of view? And by the way, maybe your point of view is quite basic, but like meaning I'm going to be the best little blonde, white, know nothing girl next door ever. Oh, okay, that's your point of view. But then, we'll go back to dominating versus innovating and going, is that effectively or not? My darlings, did you know that behind this podcast lies a decade of work that was focused on creating a comprehensive system of tools and step-by-step processes tailored for artists who are striving to build sustainable careers? Sorry, saying that 12 times fast. But it's like all of us, right? We're all trying to build sustainable careers. Our creative startup offers an immersive blend of e-learning and personalized one-on-one consulting aimed at empowering actors to bypass years of struggle. This work includes a bunch of elements highlighted in this podcast, including professional networking, goals setting, financial management, self-producing, craft improvement, method or how you work, and probably in some ways most important, marketing. Participants will work one-on-one with either Labbadia or myself, in addition to gaining access to nearly 40 hours of guided e-learning content. So check out the show notes for info on setting up a free consultation and let us help you take your creative career to the next level. And should you choose to sign up, you can use Creative Risk for 10% off. You really do interpret because we always have this conversation.
Yeah.
When I'm really bothered. I get dead in the eyes. I'm not as effusive.
Yeah, you're always so effusive. Anyway, so what's the next? Sorry for all these technical difficulties. They'll be
always.
Yeah, whatever. Well, join our Patreon and please.
Exactly.
Well, let's talk about, there's so many things here and we don't have much time. So, what else, so if you are having an imbalanced or broken collaborative process,
right?
Communication is probably where you need to begin.
Well, always. Is that a burp?
That was a burp, yeah.
Oh. Well, because listen, first of all, I do think creative, collaborative relationships in particular are deeply intimate. I really do. When you and I argue about something, if we're having a moment about something, it's usually a lack of. We just had a moment where you think I'm being overly I'm catastrophizing a moment, and in my mind, I'm not.
Yes.
But that's just a lack of.
So if you don't communicate, if you don't openly communicate, that's the thing is, it's there is such a thing as over communication, and we should do a whole episode on what over communication is, because I know that's it's just a crack in the cup. So there's a whole thing of over communication, but oftentimes we don't have an over communication problem. We oftentimes have an under communication problem.
I agree.
So
with that. I agree.
if you are having I'm having even to go back to your example of that thread and that whole process. The number one issue is that there is a lack of communication between all of us, and we're avoiding each other, and there's a lack of communication. Most issues come out of and yes, when you are openly communicative, is what you said already. You create, it's fun, it can be free, it can be because you trust each other and because you know where you stand. And sometimes, and yes, it's important to know where you stand at any given moment, and because then you feel safe, and then you feel taken care of.
Absolutely.
And you don't feel like you're being fucking duped.
Absolutely.
And so yes, if you have any sort of collaborative processes that are sort of falling apart right now, probably what the issue is communication. Next.
And I just want to say, like, from a creative standpoint,
yes,
too, effective, clear, empathetic communication will undoubtedly foster a more fun, creative environment.
Correct.
Just when you're working on art with people, like being able to and I think about that as a director, like, it is really important to me that artists feel like they have a voice in the process, that it doesn't feel like a hierarchy.
Yes.
Because then people are willing to try shit and they're going to feel like they're part of it. This is a big one, though. Overwhelm is a big problem just in general.
Yes, I'm overwhelmed by all the things that are going on that I have to do, all of my different priorities, all the different, responsibilities I have. So overwhelm is a big problem. How does communication help solve overwhelm?
Well, I would argue it really comes back to yourself again.
Yes.
And I think this is a hard one. Am I really able to do all of these things?
Yes.
I mean, we have this conversation all of the time, and
Yes.
which I would argue is good. I
Yes.
don't think to constantly check in, and our stomachs, our eyes can be bigger than our stomachs sometimes.
Hard.
Maybe not in our
not in our
case,
case, but yes. Oftentimes that is the case.
We want to do, so if you're really going, how can I realistically do this? How can I realistically take this project on? Am I trying to do too much? What would it take for me to take on this project? And to have that conversation and communication with yourself, I think, is a really tough, mature thing to do, but it's a necessity.
I want to say one thing about this. And
Yeah.
You're keeping an eye. Joshua and I are going to go see a show at the place where we're doing a show together, Penguin Rep.
Yep.
But one thing I want to say about that. So imagine if you had a question, like I'm even thinking for myself, anything that I want to do that comes up, any sort of commitment I want to make or take on, I should run it through. This is what Principles is all about. Ray Dalio's book. It's like, let me run it through my principles. Does it, and what are my, so before I commit to things, whether it's something with artist strategy, whether it's something personally, whether it's a creative project, let me take it through these couple of questions so I can have a conversation with myself. Why do people not do that? Because we don't want the responsibility. We just want to live free. We don't want to have to, that's my problem I just want to be loose. I don't want to have the responsibility of taking everything I think about, I want to do it through some sort of system where I have to go, okay, it feels dead. It feels blah, blah, blah. Let me just be free and blah, blah. But the next thing you know, you have a ton of people who are waiting on you,
right?
Who are disappointed in you,
yes,
and who are not so how do you? So this is imperative. And look, all we have in this fucking business is our reputations. Look, I am the first to say, and people have collaborated. It's hard. I am just as guilty of it as everybody else of letting balls slide, letting things slip. But
I let balls slide all the time.
Yeah, balls slide all over. Kevin Spacey's father. No, but so yes, overwhelm. And then oftentimes once you run those things and you understand, you need to then communicate that to people. You need to communicate that, and then don't be swayed. Yes, be open to receive, but also this is where you also have to sort of really effectively communicate where you stand and not let people sort of guilt you or shame you into doing other doing shit.
Yes. No, I'm glad you're bringing this. This to me is a big one as part of the overwhelm. And we've actually talked about it in a few places already in this episode. But the idea of here's why I can do this episode, and if I'm gonna, episode. Here's why I can do this project. But if I am going to do this project, here's how I work effectively. Especially when it's a new person or a new project. We talk about this all the time. Systemizing, quote unquote, I know pushes glasses up nose, kind of nerdy, but literally, how are we going to get this done? And or, I don't really see a potential for this coming into my world for another year. I might not be the person to work with you, person A, on this project. And again, kind of like what we were saying about that person and our coming on our podcast and them saying no, imagine how respected they will feel if you can deal with not only your own with letting someone down, but subsequently dealing with your own overwhelm, because that's why it's not working, because you've overcommitted. You don't have a way to really go to prioritize and understand how you can effectively get things done. So you're going to disappoint yourself and you're going to disappoint others. And I unfortunately have done this I can think of many projects. And you just said something important. At the end of the day, what do you have? Your word.
Right.
And if you belie your word, if your word is shit,
it's bad. That's really bad.
And again, I believe everybody's been a culprit of letting folks down. It's their word going out the window.
It's unacceptable.
It's
and we
unacceptable.
Accept it, and we accept it. And I'm not saying, like, go cut your wrists in the bathtub. I'm just saying, like, but we cannot accept. It's easy to get numb to it and just kind of like, well, that's the way it goes, things. And look, it's hard. Overwhelm also oftentimes means that you're not really clear about what your priorities are and what your values are. Right. You're kind of throwing paint against the wall, which is good to an extent, but you need to start making some firm commitments.
That's right.
As to your like what's really important to you and what are you really trying to get accomplished here?
Absolutely. No. And again, if nothing else, even if you are not someone who can work on 12 different things, but you're a person of your word who communicates that and says that, imagine
that's everything.
That is everything. And again, I'm really speaking to myself now because I really want to be there for people, and you and I both always want to work on
and we want to do a lot.
Exactly.
We want to do a lot of things, but there is that part of that goes like, well, what season of my life am I in right now?
Right. Right.
Is this the season? There's a long life to live, and I want to start really. It's okay to say no, and it's okay to have less things going on. It's okay to have less things going on.
It is, because then you'll probably do a lot of other things a lot better. I mean, one day we're going to do a whole episode on social media and content creation.
Right.
Okay, here's the last one that I would like to talk about as a problem.
Great.
I'll throw this out here as, hard to build relationships in the industry.
Yes, this is good.
I think people struggle to build. This is a problem that people have, and the reason why it relates to communication is because consistency is needed in nurturing any relationship.
Right.
And if you're struggling to build relationships in the industry, by even, there's a question again, going back to this definition of, am I conveying information clearly, effectively, and empathetically, ensuring mutual understanding, even from the beginning of a relationship? But then how am I continually nurturing and putting time into, and, I'm going to give myself away now, but for the past it's only been about 2 months, I've had to build a spreadsheet of my family and actual friends in my life, because I am someone, I've always been a very career-centric person, and I'm really I need to do that. I'm sorry, family and friends, but it's the truth. I have to really lay this out so I can go, how do I make sure that I am effectively at least communicating to people in my life?
Right.
Because whether it's a professional relationship or a personal relationship, for me, I actually think it's easier with me professionally, unfortunately. And so I'm really having to work on my personal relationships, because just like Francis Ford Coppola said in that thing that you heard a little bit ago, at the end of the day, what do you have? You have your friends.
Well, and the thing is about staying on if there are people that you want, artists you respect, and look, I said this last time, I'm feeling sort of done having a wide net. It doesn't need to be 1,000 people.
Sure.
I'm more interested in okay, who are the people who are at my level, who are a level above me, and who are 5 levels above me, who are maybe the 75 people that I'm like in this business, who I'm
Right.
like, I want to grow relationships with these people.
Right.
I'm interested in that.
Right.
And, as sort of psychopathic as it sounds, keeping that spreadsheet and being like, if somebody gets booted out, they get booted out.
They get booted out.
And and the thing, let me say about this. So if these people mean something to you, that's what's clear, I hope, is that these aren't just like, oh, it's a casting director and I have to know them because they're casting.
Sure.
No. If
No.
this person means something to you because you respect their work, because you would like to work with them, because you think they're good, well, then that is information that should be conveyed to them effectively, empathetically,
Absolutely.
and, with respect. And so how do you do that? Well, you show up. You show up the best way you can. I'm not saying you say, hey, like you check in and be like, hey, I would like to work with you. Yes, that would be that. But again, I don't think that's the most empathetic way to go. I think what's probably more empathetic is to communicate how much you appreciate their work to them, to show up to their work.
Right.
I'm over. I know this is a conversation for another time. I'm really about like a list of 50. I'm kind of thinking that's kind of it now. Just like there's so many people, yes, but again, if you're so spread out across all these things, but blah 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 blah, and then when you are with people in front of them, it's amazing how tell that story about that woman you met. The voiceover agent. You wanted to.
Oh yeah, but what does this relate to communication? Just
building
being present?
relationships because because literally.
Yeah, well, I'm a good people person in the moment, and I went to this show the other day, and as I was leaving, there was this kooky older woman who was like down the stairs, and she like kind of interrupted a conversation I was having, and I sort of was like yes-anded it, didn't know who she was, and we went outside, and next thing you know, we were talking. She's like, "Do you mind if I smoke?" And she was like smoking, and turns out she's an agent, and she was repping one of the folks in the show, and she's like, "Are you repped?" And I was like, "I am," but she happened to say that while she does legit, that she's also loves VO. And my VO agents are good VO agents, but I haven't been sent on things in a long time. And quite candidly, I have some bills coming up. I'm looking to make a little extra cash. I've been considering, the VO work in particular. And in the moment, I spent about 15 minutes with her while she was smoking in my face. It was hilarious. But like we were communicating, I was pretty open. I was being empathetic
Exactly.
to her. She was talking about her 94-year-old mom who started the agency and she's dying. And she's like, so we were talking and I followed up with her. And next thing I know, I said, I'd love to, pick your brain about VO. And she basically was like, we're working together. No problem. I'll be your agent.
It's so hard because why does this relate to communication? We should probably end it. Why does that relate to communication? Is because, again, when your mind is, it's like when you go to a party, it's like, like the fucking, like I keep thinking about the alumni party for UNCSA. And there's like, oh, you're talking to the person, but then there's the sexy person over there.
Yep.
And it's like, and it's so hard in this business to not be distracted
I
by the
know.
glitter, by the fucking, as opposed
Yep.
to like when you can make a meaningful connection by being clear with somebody and like conveying who you are to them and really trying to forge something meaningful with them, like people will want to be in your sphere as opposed to like, trying to be fucking, I don't know, whatever.
Well, no. It's a good point. And look, I know this is a macro topic, the idea of communication and it as a real problem solver, but we hope that this has given you some context to reflect on just general communication and how it plays a role in your life and how, with whatever problems you might be having, how you can reflect on how that relates to communication. So hope you enjoyed it. Let's talk comfort food performances.
I've chosen.
Okay, go ahead.
So this is a little bit of a cheat, but I saw that production of The Seagull last night with Mia Vallet.
Mm-hmm.
Who I see in almost everything she does in the city.
She's very talented.
She's amazing. She
Yeah, she is.
really is. Like, I think that she still is going to be. There were some interesting people at the show last night, like watching it.
She was Nina, right?
Yes, she was phenomenal. She
Yeah.
is truthfully probably one of the better actors I've seen on stage, like of our generation. Like, she's phenomenal.
Yeah, Mia Vallet's really good.
Truly phenomenal.
My comfort food performance, I saw Psycho for the first time.
Oh, wow.
Anthony Perkins, man.
Yeah, he's good.
Oh my gosh. He reminds me of Luke Fallon in
Yes.
Patriots. Very free and joyous and
Yes.
bubbly and so I thought his Anthony Perkins in Psycho was just terrific. Loved that. Well, folks,
That
thank
was
you
really
so much
fast.
for tuning
sorry
in.
for the curt ending, but
No.
we gotta go.
Is going to be an outro or no?
Yes,
Okay, because I didn't see it on. Oh, yes, I did.
You
Anyway, we
saw.
love you all.
we love you.
Bye.
Bye.
We hope that you enjoyed today's episode of the Creative Risk Podcast. If you did, a review goes a long way. So make sure that you're following us on whatever platform you listen to. And if you're catching this on YouTube, be sure that you like and subscribe so that you can get alerts when new content drops. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, subscribe to us. And if you want ongoing new content that's exclusive, you can't get anywhere else, follow us on Patreon, subscribe to our Patreon for as little as $5 a month. All right, thank you, friends.